Your dog will never forget these 5 things, but there are 5 small things he wishes you did every single day. Things that cost nothing and take almost no time. Most owners never realize they're missing them, because they happen so quietly, in such ordinary moments, that it's easy to look right past them entirely. Science shows, though, that these 5 things shape more of your dog's emotional life than almost anything else you do. More than the expensive food, more than the big walks, more than the toy waiting by the door on his birthday. The first thing is 3 minutes on the floor, every single morning, before anything else. A man named James had a dog named Max, and they had a morning routine. Every morning before his phone, James spent about 3 minutes on the floor with Max. No commands, no training, just his hand on Max's side. The two of them quiet together in the early light. Max lived for those 3 minutes, not because they were dramatic, but because they happened every single morning without fail. His entire nervous system learned to expect them, to count on them. Researchers studying canine attachment found it was underlength or intensity of interaction that mattered most to a dog's emotional baseline. It was the predictability. Dogs who experienced consistent low-kid contact at the same time each day showed measurably lower cortisol levels throughout the entire day. Not just during the contact itself, all day. The morning set the tone for everything that followed. Those 3 minutes on the floor were telling Max the world was safe. Not loudly, but through the simple, repeated fact of James being there. On the floor, unhurried, before the day had asked anything of either of them yet. James didn't know he was doing something profound. He thought he was just being with his dog. The second thing is letting him sniff. Not rushing the walk, but letting him read it. James used to walk Max the way most people do, briskly, with somewhere to be, correcting him when he stopped too long at a lamppost or pressed his nose into a patch of grass. Efficient. The walk as a checkbox. Then one evening, tired and unhurried, he let Max lead. Max stopped at everything. He sniffed a fence post for 2 full minutes. He circled back to a corner where something invisible to James seemed extraordinary to Max. He pressed his nose to the ground in a slow, deliberate line, reading something James couldn't see or smell or understand. A dog's olfactory system processes approximately 300 million scent receptors, compared to our 6 million. The part of their brain dedicated to smell is 40 times larger than ours. A walk is not exercise to a dog. A walk is reading. It is the news, the neighborhood, the history of every creature that passed through in the last 24 hours. When you rush your dog past all of that, you are not being efficient. You are closing the book before he finishes the page. James started leaving the house 10 minutes earlier to make room for it. No destination, no pace, no agenda. Just Max's nose and whatever it needed to find. The change in Max afterward was immediate. He wasn't just more relaxed. He was more satisfied, like someone who had been given the time to finish a thought. The third thing is talking to him. Not commands, just your voice, in the room, including him. Just talking the way James did while making dinner, narrating out loud. Max would lie on the kitchen floor, chin on his paws, eyes tracking James around the room. A 2016 study found that dogs use the left hemisphere of their brain to process the meaning of words, just like humans, and they use the right hemisphere to process tone, also just like humans. A word said warmly activates a reward response. The same word said flatly doth not. Your dog understands more than the words. He understands the feeling behind them, and he has been listening to yours, the warmth, the calm, the distraction, the worry far more carefully than you know. Every time you speak to him in that particular voice, the one you use only with him, something registers. Something is confirmed. Something settles. When James talked to Max in the kitchen, Max was receiving information. He was understanding that this person is calm, that this space is warm, that everything right now is fine. The fourth thing is intentional eye contact. 30 seconds. Soft, without asking for anything. Not the accidental kind, but the deliberate kind, where you put everything else down, turn toward your dog, and simply look at him for a moment. Softly. A study published in Science in 2015 measured oxytocin levels in both dogs and owners during different interactions. The single most powerful trigger was mutual gaze. Dogs and owners in sustained, soft eye contact showed the largest oxytocin spike of any interaction measured, the same hormonal response in both species simultaneously. The researchers noted it's the same mechanism that bonds a mother to a newborn. Max had a habit of sitting directly in front of James in the evenings, just looking at him. James used to glance up and look away. After reading the study, he started looking back. He would hold Max's gaze for a minute. Max's expression in those moments was something James struggled to describe. Not excitement, not expectation, something quieter. His ears were soft, his breathing slow, his whole body relaxed in a way that was different from his usual resting state. It looked almost exactly like peace, the kind that comes not from the absence of problems, but from the presence of someone you completely trust. The fifth thing is the daily check-in. Once a day, stop and actually look at him. James called it the check-in. Once a day, he would stop and actually look at Max. Not glance. Look. He'd watch how he was moving, whether his ears were soft or slightly forward, whether the quality of his stillness was relaxed or tense. Most owners look at their dogs dozens of times a day and see very little, not because they don't care, but because they're looking through the dog, not at him. Dogs communicate almost entirely through the body. The position of the ears, the set of the jaw, the way the tail moves, not just whether it moves, but where, at what speed, and at what height. An experienced eye can detect stress long before it becomes a behavioral problem. James wasn't a behaviorist, but he learned over years to notice, to catch the small shifts before they became large ones. To see the moment Max needed something quieter surroundings, more contact, more space, and respond before it became distress. It didn't require expertise. It required only the willingness to actually look, once a day, at the animal living beside him. Max never had to ask loudly, because James had learned to hear him quietly. There is something that changes in a dog, slowly, over months and years, when an owner consistently does these 5 things. Not a big dramatic change, a quieter change. The dog becomes more settled, more trusting, more fully themselves. The cortisol stays low. The oxytocin stays available. The nervous system learns that this human is safe to relax around completely. It is the difference between a dog who is cared for and a dog who is truly known. And Max, in the end, was both. Not because James did everything perfectly, but because he did these 5 small things consistently, quietly, every day, until they became less like a habit and more like a language. One tat-side without words. The only thing that ever really needed saying. I see you. I am here. You are safe. That is what all 5 of these things have in common. They are not training. They are not discipline. They are about attention, about being present in small, consistent, reliable ways. Dogs don't need grand gestures. They need the small things so quiet, so regular, that they stop feeling like choices and start feeling like the texture of a shared life. The morning floor time, tea-slow walk. The voice in the kitchen, tea-held gaze. The daily check-in. 5 things, most of them under 5 minutes, all of them adding up over months and years. To a dog who is not just happy, but genuinely, deeply, physiologically at peace. Max had that. Not because James was exceptional, because he paid attention. If this video made you think about your own daily routine with your dog, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to understand what your dog is really trying to tell you in every quiet moment, subscribe to Silent Paw. Because they speak more than words. We just have to learn how to listen.